What's going on? It's Crazy King live, and right here we're gonna do a reaction to the complete history of Kamen Rider, 1971 to 2024. Hmm. Oh yeah, since I already did Super Sentai, it's about time I do one for Kamen Rider. And also a little update. So I got my first strike. Yeah, it was for the Kaisaku Sentai episode episode 2. Yeah, episode 2. Yeah, and the thing about it, I just found out about the strike like last night. Like, it's just so crazy. But as far as like episodes, like episode reactions, they're gonna have to be put on Patreon because I'm not trying to get any more strikes. You know. Enough about that. Let's go ahead and get to the video. Let's go.
Why is Kamen Rider so legendary?
Hmm.
From 1971's
I
original
gotta know
Kamen
the
Rider
special to
series
that.
to 2024's Kamen Rider Gav, the Kamen Rider franchise has built an incredible legacy and a rich history within Japan
Jeez.
and throughout the entire world. This video will cover every single Kamen Rider series throughout history, as well as other major milestones in the franchise like movies,
Wait,
games,
and it
and
wanted
even
with
American
Ultraman?
adaptations. So if you want a video that
Dang.
you can show to people who don't know what Kamen Rider is, or if you just want to take an entertaining walk with me through the complete history of this legendary franchise, this is the video for you. To tell the story of the Kamen Rider franchise, we first have to go all the way back to 1938, where a young child named Shotaro Onodera was born in the town
1938.
of Tome in Miyagi Prefecture, Japan. Shotaro would take on the name Ishinomori, and he showed a lot of creativity and a talent for creating characters from a young age. He showcased his abilities in various manga competitions throughout his childhood before he would eventually create a
So
character
this is the
named
creator.
Skullman that would of course go on to become Kamen Rider. Kamen Rider is perhaps best known for featuring young adult men that become cyborgs and transform into armored superheroes with a theme of grasshoppers and other insects, although this has loosened up a lot over time, and in the modern age, not all series feature this bug theme. In fact, most don't.
That is true.
There are
That's true.
3 eras of Kamen Rider, and these coincide with the eras of Japan's history. These eras are known as the Showa era, spanning from 1926 to 1989, the Heisei era, spanning from 1989 to 2019, and the Reiwa era, which spans from 2019 through the present day.
And we're in the Ray. We're in the Ray. The Ray right now.
In 1971, Kamen Rider was born with the iconic original series,
It's the
starring
OG.
2 main protagonists in Takeshi and Hayato,
It's the
as they would
OG.
take on Shocker and later Gel Shocker. Unlike modern-day seasons of Kamen Rider, this series ran for a whopping 98 episodes. And we would start with the story of Takeshi Hongo, a
98
college student who was
episodes.
turned into a cyborg by Shocker, but they were unable to fully convert his mind, and he would rebel and battle against them. While filming a motorcycle stunt, Takeshi Hongo's actor Hiroshi Fujioka was injured and had to be replaced. They would replace him by Hayato Ichimonji, played by Takeshi Sasaki, and eventually they would join forces together, becoming the iconic Double Riders.
Oh!
This series
Wait.
set iconic tropes, such as Kamen Rider being a cyborg.
Wait. So there was 2 of them? Oh! I didn't know that. Like, for this one, as far as like the very first one, I know it basically from the openings. I never watched the original Kamen Rider, but they had double. They had two Kamen Riders. Dang, I didn't know that. I'll find something out.
Fighting an evil organization, and of course his preferred method of transportation, his rider machine Cyclone. To say that this series was iconic and legendary would be a huge understatement.
Hmm. Wow.
In 1973, Toei would follow up the success of Kamen Rider with Kamen Rider V3, a direct sequel, featuring returning
Hmm.
characters from Kamen Rider.
Maybe three. You gotta love the 70s
In this
effects,
series,
man. You just
Shiro
gotta love
Kazumi
it.
wants to be a cyborg in order to avenge his family that he saw being killed by Destron. He becomes
Dang.
mortally wounded while risking his life to protect the Double Riders. So in return, they turn him into Kamen Rider V3. This
Hmm.
series features Joji Yuki, also known as Rider
What in the
Man, played
world?
by Takahisa Yamaguchi, who has one of the most unique rider suit designs in the franchise, being that his mouth is exposed through his helmet.
Yeah. That's
Our
kind of that's
protagonist
kind of
Shiro is
interesting.
played by Hiroshi
Hmm.
Miyauchi, who also played Owl Ranger in Go Ranger, Big One in Jaka, and Chief Counselor Naoyuki Miura in O Ranger, plus multiple seasons of the Metal Hero franchise. This guy
Wow.
is a Toku legend.
A lot of the, a lot of these shows are
As far as
connected.
V3 suit design, it was a
Hmm.
natural evolution from the looks of the Double Riders, featuring more red and a slightly more detailed design.
We got Kamen Rider
1974
X.
was the year of Kamen Rider X, where our main protagonist Keisuke and his father were betrayed by Keisuke's fiancée in order to assist God, the government of darkness, leading
Dang.
Keisuke and his father to become mortally wounded. Keisuke's father,
Hmm.
who was a robotics expert, turned Keisuke into a Kaizorg, also known as X Rider or Kamen Rider X, in order to save his life. In this
Hmm.
series, Keisuke starts as an easygoing character with the optimism of somebody that's about to get married. But all that is ripped away from him, and he turns into a machine of pure precision and focus. His helmet is meant to look like a skull, and his helmet definitely has a look that calls back to the Skullman manga created by Shotaro
Yeah.
Ishinomori. Due to competition from anime on
Okay.
TV at the time,
You could
the show
tell
had
by the
lower
helmet
ratings than the
too.
studio had hoped, and it only lasted 35 episodes.
Dang. Oh, ho, ho.
Also in
Amazon.
1974, we had Kamen Rider Amazon. This is the shortest Kamen Rider series ever, and one of the most violent. This show follows Daisuke, who was lost in the Amazon as a
It looks
child. He
good
was
though.
raised by wild animals before eventually being
He look like
adopted
Luke
by an Incan
Kane.
tribe. Nearly his entire village would be killed by Golgos, but not before an
Dang.
elder in the tribe performs a ritual to give him the power to become Kamen Rider Amazon.
Hmm. I just love the design. I just
This
love
was an
it.
incredibly iconic and unique new look for Kamen Rider, with a helmet design and a suit design that had never been seen before. This was the first rider to not use a belt to henshin, and the first Kamen Rider series since the original to not have any previous riders returning. This is also the
Hmm.
very last main Kamen Rider series that did not have a Sentai season air alongside it.
Hmm.
1975
Oh,
saw the release of
stronger.
Kamen Rider Stronger, which was originally planned to be the final Kamen Rider series. This show
What?
follows Shigeru Joe,
This
whose
is supposed
best
to be
friend
the
and
final
mentor
one?
Goro is killed by Black Satan. Because of this,
Black
Shigeru lets
Satan.
himself get turned into a cyborg or
Dang.
Kamen Rider Stronger.
That's crazy that they tried to end it off with this. Ah.
He meets Yuriko, also known as Electronic Wave Humanoid Tackle or Denpa Ningen Tekud, who is also a cyborg created by Black Satan, and together they would battle Black
By Black
Satan and later
Satan.
the Delzer Army.
So, Kamen
Electronic
Rider
Wave
is supposed to be
Humanoid Tackle
over in the
isn't technically a Kamen
70s
Rider,
or
but she
80s.
definitely has the look of one, especially the ones from the early Showa era, and she is bug themed, with Tackle's motif being a ladybug, and she was even created by Black Satan in the same way as
I
Stronger.
think this is late 70s.
Unfortunately, the actress Kyoko Okada, who played Electronic Wave Humanoid Tackle, passed away at the age of 27 due to an asthma attack. Shigeru was played by Shigeru
Dang!
Araki, who also
R.I.P.
passed away in
God
2012 of pneumonia.
dog. Man. 27. Dang.
This was meant to be called Kamen Rider Spark, but that was trademarked in Japan. However, this would have been a really fitting name due to the show's focus on electricity, and this was the very first Kamen Rider series to have a temporary power-up for the main rider, that being Stronger's charge-up form.
Nice. Looks good.
4 whole years later, the Kamen Rider fandom would be introduced to Sky Rider.
Okay,
This was meant to be a
79.
reboot of the original Kamen Rider series after the
So they were
franchise
going
had
to
been
end it
off of
all
TV
in the
for 4 whole
70s.
years.
Wow.
Hence the name and similar suit design to Kamen Rider Ichigo. This show would revisit classic themes and tropes from the first 2 Kamen Rider series.
Oh
In Sky
man,
Rider, we follow
you
Hiroshi
have to love the
Tsukuba as he
70s
battles
special
Miosha.
effects.
Eventually, the idea of this being a reboot was phased out over time, and classic Kamen Riders would appear, tying this into the continuity of the rest of the era. With a name like Sky Rider, this series was very focused on flight. However, this was also phased out over time, and as far as I can tell, this was because Shotaro Ishinomori was unhappy with the flight special effects, i.e., he didn't like how it looked when Sky Rider was flying around.
Oh wow. But it was the
If you've
70s
been injured in a
though.
recent car accident that
Uh,
wasn't your fault, I'm gonna show you how I got.
but hey, it was the 70s though. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the 70s, they didn't really have like the high tech stuff, so it's like, yeah. But you just gotta love the 70s, man. Just gotta love the effects.
In 1980, we were introduced to Kamen Rider Super 1. Our protagonist, Kazuya,
Oh, in the
volunteers for
80s.
cybernetic surgery in the International Space Development Program in the United States, so he can be an astronaut who doesn't need a spacesuit to survive in space. Unfortunately, before he can make it to space, the base where his operation is being performed is attacked by the Dogma Kingdom, with everyone else being killed.
Dang, man. Yo, the background stories to these shows is just messed up. God damn.
He goes to Japan and is trained by a martial arts expert named Master Ginkai, who teaches him how to henshin into Super 1. This show featured multiple types of interchangeable hands with different strengths and elements, and this functioned as a prototype version of the form switching that we see today. In 1984, Toei released a one-off special titled Birth of the 10th Kamen Riders All Together, and this was the introduction of
ZX.
Ryo Murasame, also known as Kamen Rider Z-Cross. Ryo was a pilot who was attacked by a UFO while with his sister before being kidnapped by the
I think
Bottom
this is
Empire,
yeah.
turning him into Z-Cross.
This
With
is
his
a
memory
crossover.
erased, he does their bidding before quickly regaining his memory and escaping. He learns of the other riders that came before him, and they would team up together. Although this is only a special, Z-Cross is considered the 10th rider and often represented as
Yeah,
the
this
sixth
is it right here. This is the one that
special
had that
marks the final
opening.
unmentioned appearance of Shiro Kazami, also known as
And I
Kamen
think
Rider
it had the
3,
best opening
Joji
too. I
Yuki,
remember
also known as
this.
Rider Man,
I
and
remember
Kazuya
this.
Oki, also known as Kamen Rider Super 1.
Yeah, I remember that. Kamen Rider
1987
Black.
saw the release of one of the most popular and loved series in the history of the Kamen Rider franchise in Kamen Rider Black. This is a legendary entry, marked by a dark tone, a gritty look, and a very emotional story. This show is a drama in the fullest sense.
Oh wow.
Black
I didn't know
introduces
that.
us to Kotaro Minami, who is portrayed masterfully by Tetsuo Kurata, and he delivers a heavy and impactful performance where you're gonna feel the agony that he feels during his fight against Shadow Moon and the Gorgon.
どうしたブラックさん生き返って強くなったのはその程度か
It was around this time that the look of Kamen Riders in general started to change a little bit. The helmets became a little less bulky, and the armor started looking a little more like armor instead of cloth. The aesthetics here and the tone would remain influential to future iterations of Kamen Rider for years to come.
Yeah. Kamen Rider Black looks serious though. Even from the opening. Like
In
I already knew
1988,
there was
after
something
the
different.
success of Kamen Rider Black, the executives at Toei agreed to go ahead with a sequel entitled Kamen Rider Black RX. In this series, Minami Kotaro returns, and he refuses an offer to join the Crisis Empire. Because of this, he's thrown into the sun, where he would become Kamen Rider Black RX.
Dang, they try to throw him in the sun? Yeah.
This show was
Oh.
notable for featuring Rideron, which was a red car instead of Kamen Rider's signature motorcycle. And this was also the first show to introduce form switching into the franchise officially.
Yo, it's just nothing but just straight savage. Like, bro,
1992
they are
was an absolutely
savages
packed
over
year
here,
for the
man.
Kamen Rider franchise,
They throw
featuring
them in the
Shin Kamen Rider
sun.
Prologue, a film
Shin
celebrating the
Kamen
20th
Rider?
anniversary of the
Oh.
franchise. Because this was 20 years later, this film was meant to attract fans of the original series that had now grown into adults, and that's why the film was a lot darker and more violent. Our protagonist here is Shin Kazamatsuri, who is fused with grasshopper DNA against his will, leading him to fight against the Institute of Super Science, or ISS. Shotaro Ishinomori originally planned for him to be called Kamen Rider Gaia, with a more traditional look, but later on they changed this to Kamen Rider Shin and gave him a suit that was more biological and insect-like.
Ooh.
Ishinomori himself even appears in this movie as a spy.
I need to watch this. I need to watch this. Ooh, Shin Kamen Rider. I need to put that
Also
on
in
the list.
1993, we had the release of Kamen Rider on the Super Famicom. This was a game based on the original Kamen Rider series, released 20 years after the show that it's based on. It was a beat-em-up style game, allowing two players to play as Kamen Rider Ichigo and Nigo respectively.
This actually looks
This game made it
fun.
possible for a new generation to experience the universe of the original
I
Kamen
need,
Rider
I need,
series. And
I
you
need
could
to see
even
if I
play
can
with a
find
friend.
this game. I know I can find it somewhere. Oh, there's the OG. And Ultraman.
Rounding out a huge 1993 was Ultraman vs. Kamen Rider, a TV special featuring mini clips and interviews with the people involved from both shows, where we have Kamen Rider growing into a giant to fight alongside Ultraman.
Dang. I didn't even know they had a crossover with Ultraman.
This was a small project, but fans in 1993 welcomed it, and it kept the spirits of these legendary Toku characters alive and well.
I'm just finding out so much new info, man. Well, it's new to me, but
1994 was the year of
Dang.
Kamen Rider J, the first rider to be able to grow into a giant. Koji Segawa is a photographer who is killed while attempting to protect his little sister named Kana. He's thrown over a cliff and Kana is captured. The Earth
Dang.
Spirit resurrects Koji,
Why are
and
they
he becomes
so-
Kamen Rider J,
Man,
who is
they ain't
assisted
got no
by his
chill.
main Barry. J is played by Yuta Mochizuki, who also played Geki in Zyuranger.
these backstories are dark. Oh my goodness. Dang.
1995 would live in infamy with Saban's Masked Rider, one of the largest blemishes on the resume of Kamen Rider.
I have traveled a vast distance from the planet Edenoi.
After the success of Power Rangers during the 90s, Saban and Toei decided to team up in order to bring Kamen Rider
What
to
is
the
this?
English-speaking world. This resulted in what is widely considered to be one of the worst adaptations of all time. This show is about an alien named Dax from planet Edenoi who travels
ain't
to
never
Earth
seen
alongside
this.
his companion Furbus, who looks like a giant Furby, and he meets a family who are pretty much devoid of personality and acting skills.
Oh, man. Was it really that bad? Cause I do not remember
They tried
this
to
at
shove
all.
Kamen Rider and a family sitcom together, and it just doesn't work. An unfortunate blemish to the legacy of Kamen Rider in the West.
Oh, he killing it though. Hey, he got some dance moves. But I did not know that they tried to
1998
do
saw
it.
the release of a Kamen
Wow.
Rider game on a brand new cutting-edge system, the PlayStation, allowing fans to experience the original Kamen Rider series all over again. This
That
was a
was
fighting
good.
game featuring characters and locations that fans of the original series would be really excited to see.
It looks good for a
Gameplay was
PlayStation
nothing
1 game.
revolutionary here, but this was definitely a noteworthy release in the history of Kamen Rider. 1998 was also a year that would go down as a sad one for Kamen Rider fans, as we lost Shotaro Ishinomori due to heart failure on January 28, 1998. It was unclear what would come of the
Dang.
Kamen Rider franchise with the loss of its creator and visionary.
But this game looks good. I know I can find it somewhere. I might actually play it on my gaming channel.
In 2000, Kamen Rider would return inside of the Heisei era with a new hero, a new legend, in Kamen
Oh,
Rider
Kuga.
This was the first series in 11 years.
In 11 years? Dang.
The main protagonist in Kuga is Yusuke Godai, who finds an ancient artifact that allows him to become Kuga in order to battle the Gyorongi, or unidentified life forms. This was the final Kamen Rider
Wait, this
season to
looks
feature
clean.
only a single rider, as every season following Kuga would feature multiple riders.
I like the design on this.
Kuga would also feature multiple forms that were different color swaps and featured different weapons. And this was also the first season to air alongside a Super Sentai season on the same network, leading to Superhero Time.
Superhero time.
In 2001, Toei released a direct sequel to Kuga titled Kamen Rider Agito, and this show features
Oh,
43
that's how you
different
say
riders.
it. Akito. I was sure gonna butcher the name.
Shoichi becomes Agito, a magic-based rider whose name is Latin for move or keep moving. Makoto becomes G3, a mechanical and technology-based rider who's based off of Kuga and actually puts his suit on. Ryo is Gills, a biological rider whose armor actually grows from his body.
What? Oh. Dang. That's
And
wild.
Kaoru is the incredibly cool Another Agito. This was the final Kamen Rider season to feature the Ishinomori-style belt design. Also in 2001, the Ishinomori Manga Museum, named after Shotaro Ishinomori, opened in Ishinomaki, Miyagi Prefecture, Japan, to showcase some of the most culturally significant manga in history and to educate people on an art form that Shotaro Ishinomori himself loved so much. Even though Shotaro was gone, his legacy was well remembered, and the franchise he created was headed in an exciting new direction.
Wow.
2002 brought Kamen Rider Yuki, a very popular season, especially amongst fans that enjoy having a lot of riders.
How many riders
travel
was
to the
it?
mirror world via reflective surfaces, and these riders compete in the Rider War, a winner-take-all competition where the victor will be granted a single wish. Yuki is known for having a very unique style, and this series has a lot of cool attributes, like being the first season to use cards, and it was also the first season where riders had a device that activates and announces their abilities and attacks.
So this was the season when they
This
started
was
using
also the
cards.
first season to feature
Okay.
villain riders. It was
Okay.
around this time that the team at Toei started getting more experimental and creative with suit designs, as evidenced by the unique and elaborate helmet designs showcased within Yuki. 2003 was the year of Kamen Rider Phase, a show in which
The
Smart Brain
CGI.
Lord is trying to take over the world with Orphanox, who are the next stage of human evolution. They create 3 suits called Rider Gear, which are Phase, Delta, and Kaiza. Our main protagonist in this series is Takumi, who along with his allies would fight against Smart Brain to prevent them from replacing the world with Orphanox.
And was this the first time that they started using cell phones?
Phase brought with it a dark, quality story with excellent acting and explosive action, and 2003 was another great year for Kamen Rider.
2003. Dang. So much time has passed.
2004 saw the release of Kamen Rider Blade, a playing card themed season featuring multiple riders that represented different suits from the card deck. Our main protagonist is Kazuma, who becomes Kamen Rider Blade after being ordered, along with Sakuya, by Board to fight against creatures called Undead.
Oh yeah. They were going crazy with the
This
cards.
series featured some really cool riders, including Garen, Chalice, Liangle, and of course Blade himself. The show featured 2
Oh,
intros.
I
and
remember
the
this.
second
I remember this
looks
intro.
cool, and you could tell their focus was just on making it look cool for the audience. But the first intro is genuinely hilarious to me, and it's really unique in its weirdness. Kick that napkin. Kick it. This was
When I achieved my bachelor's degree, it was a big moment for me because my mom passed away.
These
and
ads.
I still think of that.
the
Sorry,
first season
y'all.
to have 2 intros since Skyrider.
Oh wait, they got 2 of them?
In 2005, Toei released Kamen Rider Hibiki. This show wasn't even originally designed to be a Kamen Rider series, and in pre-production many different themes were tossed around, including ninjas and yokai, but when Bandai demanded that the Kamen Rider name be attached to the project,
but this
in order
looks
to sell
real
more
good.
toys, the original themes would be dropped, and the character would become an Oni-themed Kamen Rider. By episode 29, chief producer Shigenori Taketera was fired, and this was unofficially attributed to low ratings and low toy sales.
Dang. It looks good to me.
After
What was the
firing, there
problem?
was a visible tone shift on the show, and it began to resemble a more traditional Kamen Rider series. Hibiki introduced a lot of unique things into the franchise, including the fact that there are no belts to henshin, and this is the only series with an instrumental theme.
Kamen Rider
2005
first.
would continue with Kamen Rider the First. Kamen Rider the First was a modern-day reimagining of Shotaro Ishinomori's classic original series. This
Oh,
movie
so they
took some
kind of did a
liberties in regards
reboot.
to story, but ultimately serves as a creative and well-made Kamen Rider project that shows a lot of love and respect for the original series.
I need to catch this. I need to watch this right here.
2006 was an important year for Kamen Rider, as we would be introduced to the very first HD Kamen Rider series in Kamen Rider Kabuto.
They got Kabuto.
This
And
series takes
Kabuto's
place
moves are
7
so
years after
broken.
a meteorite hit Shibuya, and shape-shifting creatures known as worms emerged from the disaster. This show added a cast-off feature, giving a unique external layer of armor over the rider's base armor, something completely fresh and new to the franchise. This show is notable for having a lot of unique riders with varied story arcs.
Man,
Protagonist is named Soji, and he's very
I just
unique
love that
within the
design.
franchise due to being extremely arrogant most of the time. Kabuto is also very unique due to its food and culinary focus.
Really? The food? So it's basically not good to watch if you're hungry. I got it.
2007 would bring with it an absolute cultural phenomenon within Japan in Kamen Rider Den-O. Ryotaro is a huge wimp until he's possessed by the Taros, because they imbue their own personality unto him and even change his non-henshin look. Ryotaro travels with Hana and the Taros through time on the Den liner to fight against evil images.
what's that?
And they also encounter Kamen Rider Zeronos.
Wait, hold on.
Rider Den-O.
Hold
Ryotaro
on.
is a huge
Wait,
wimp until
Was
he's
that,
possessed by the Taros, because they
was that
imbue their own
Kaizoku?
personality unto him and even change his non-henshin look. Ryotaro travels with Hana and the Taros through time.
Yeah,
on the Den liner
I
to
think that
fight against
was.
evil images. And they also encounter
Oh.
Kamen Rider Zeronos. Takeru Sato, who plays Ryotaro, claims that the reason for the show's success was the comedic timing. Because the show was so successful, it would lead to a mountain of revenue for Toei and more crossovers than any other Kamen Rider series in history.
Oh wow. So this one had the most crossovers. Wow.
Following on the heels of Kamen Rider the First, 2007 would continue the anniversary celebration
Kamen
that
Rider
first
the
started
Next.
with the release of Kamen Rider the Next, a reimagining of Kamen Rider V3 with a much darker and more intense tone featuring horror themes. Like the Next, this movie
Ooh.
introduced these characters to a new generation.
Kamen Rider and
put them
horror,
in an
I
interesting
can always
premise
get behind.
set in the Heisei era. Subaraya Productions actually helped with visual effects for this movie, and they are of course known for being the makers of Ultraman.
It's just been a lot of good stuff I've been missing.
2008 was the year that Kamen Rider would take on a campy vampire theme with Kamen Rider Kiba. The tagline for this series was "Wake up, break the chains of destiny." This show takes place across two time frames simultaneously, being 1986 and 2008, allowing the audience to experience the cause and effect of certain story beats. Our soft
doing his thing, though.
protagonist is Wataru, an introvert who's a human and Fangire hybrid, and this is actually a huge part of the plot, where we would explore Wataru's family history and his place within the hierarchy of the Fangire species. This show
Oh,
introduces
wow.
some really unique elements to the franchise, featuring Wataru's ghostly allies called the Arms Monsters, who provide Kiva with power-ups and live in a building that turns into a dragon. This show also introduced us to Kibat, a bat that bites Wataru's hand to facilitate his henshin.
Ooh.
Although Kiva failed to achieve the same levels of success as Dino, this show introduced fans to some fresh and interesting new things that had never been seen before within the Kamen Rider franchise.
So a vampire Kamen Rider. That's interesting. Wait, who's this?
Going into 2009, no Rider fan
Gee.
knew just how huge it would end up being, with several awesome projects to keep the fanbase happy. One of which was Kamen Rider G, a TV special meant to celebrate the 50th anniversary of TV Asahi, as well as promote Kamen Rider
Whew.
Decade. This special followed Goro,
50.
a sommelier who henshins into Kamen Rider G as he takes on the organization's shape. Kamen Rider G is a wine-themed rider who literally uses a wine bottle and corkscrew to henshin, and he even has a sword with a
Really?
corkscrew attached to it. This special is often
He
overlooked,
transforms
but it
from
brought the
wine?
fandom something incredibly unique with
Dang.
a wine-themed rider, and was just one part of what would be a great year for Kamen Rider.
A wine-themed Kamen Rider.
In 2009, we of course
Yo.
got Kamen Rider Decade, an anniversary season celebrating 10 years of the Heisei era. This show had two catchphrases. One is connect everything by destroying everything, and Heisei Rider 10 years early. Although the show only had 31 episodes, it was stuffed full of fan service and was focused primarily on making longtime fans happy. This show exists amongst the
Ooh.
larger Riderverse, where our main protagonist named Tsukasa, also known as the Destroyer of Worlds, henshins into Kamen Rider Decade, and he travels to the universes of other Heisei-era riders as they are converging into one. He can even henshin into other riders from the Heisei era. Although Decade was a shorter season, the impact of the show was undeniable, as Decade would be featured in many crossover projects over the years.
ようこそ大ショッカーへ
2009 also brought a huge team-up movie,
All
in Kamen
Riders
Rider
versus
Decade,
Die
All Riders
Shocker.
versus Die Shocker. This project served as the official movie adaptation of Decade that gave the audience some additional context about Tsukasa and featured a team-up of every rider from the history of the franchise up to this point.
Oh, they got all the riders. Okay.
In
Was this-
addition to all
was-
of the
was this a
henshin
good
riders
movie?
throughout history, this movie also featured the nostalgic appearances of Tetsuo Kurata as Kotora Minami, or Kamen Rider Black, and Toshiki Kashu as Shoichi Sugami, or Kamen Rider Fox.
I don't know
as
why
well
I'm
as
even
tons of
asking.
classic villains from the
This
franchise.
movie had to have been fire. This had to have been really,
When this
really
movie
big.
released in theaters, it actually beat Harry Potter in the box office, earning over 2 billion yen,
Dang!
making it a huge success for Toei commercially and a memorable part of 2009.
Oh yeah, this had to have been good. To be Harry Potter back in the day, oh, that had to have
Also
been
in
the movie.
2009, Kamen Rider would have another chance at winning over Western fans with a new American adaptation titled Kamen Rider Dragon Knight. Using footage from Kamen Rider Yuki, this show aired on the CW television network during its CW for Kids programming block, but it was
Really?
ultimately canceled before the final 2 episodes aired on TV.
Kamen Rider.
Wow. I didn't even know that this happened. I didn't know.
Producer Aki Komine
Dang.
convinced Toei to let him make a pilot for an American adaptation of Kamen Rider in the same style of Power Rangers, and ultimately Ryuki was chosen for the adaptation due to the large quantity of riders and the fact that Ryuki has a female rider. Despite the show's cancellation, Dragon Knight actually won a Daytime Emmy Award for stunt coordination, and it's remembered mostly
wow.
positively by the community.
I did not know that.
There was also a Kamen Rider game released in 2009 that would lead to quite a few sequels and spin-offs, Kamen Rider Climax Heroes on PlayStation 2. This was a Kamen Rider fighting game commemorating 10 years of the Heisei era and featuring all of the primary Heisei riders up to this point. This game series has become extremely popular in the fandom, and it was another thing that made 2009 such an awesome year for Kamen Rider. But it wouldn't be the last.
It looks good. The game looks really good.
Also releasing in 2009, A fresh take on the Kamen Rider formula, Double is a detective show featuring two people that share the same rider body, hence the name Double. The catchphrases for the show were, "We are the 2-in-1 Kamen Rider," and "This clinches it." Kamen Rider Double uses Gaia memory sticks to swap left and right side forms that also provide him with different color combinations. Shotaro is what I like to call a detective's detective. He considers himself hard-boiled, although he gets called half-boiled through a lot of the show, something he's not a huge fan of. He's one stylish dude, and his surname Hidari means left, as he becomes the left side of Double's body. He constantly struggles to live up to his dead mentor's legacy, whose daughter Akiko becomes his landlady, and she has the personality of a young child. Then we have Philip. He's the right side, and he searches for useful information and does a lot of research involving words to solve cases. He's definitely not what he seems, and his story has an excellent twist. Kamen Rider Double featured some excellent lead protagonists that are very easy to root for. This show also features Ryu, also known as Axel.
That's wild. They actually got my name.
He eventually falls in love with Akiko. We also have Museum, one of the most memorable and interesting evil organizations in the history of Toku. This show has several loving nods to the creator of Kamen Rider, Shotaro Ishinomori, including Shotaro Hidari having the same name, the green and black color scheme reminiscent of the Showa era, and Kamen Rider Skull, a reference to the Skullman manga that Ishinomori created so many years prior.
Oh.
This was the first Kamen Rider series to use the term Kamen Rider in English letters on the logo and in marketing, because before this it was always Masked Rider. Double will always be remembered as a cool, fresh, and well-written entry into the franchise.
Half-boiled. I'm still on that, man. What's up with him? Why is he just on the way?
Eiji, also known as Kamen Rider Oz, a nomad with a tragic past who dresses like a hobo and has a not-so-secret obsession with underwear.
Why is he going crazy for underwear?
Eiji encounters Ankh, the arm of a greed, which is a creature made of metals that feed on the desires of humans, played by Ryosuke Miura, who also played on a show called Caesar X, and the charisma and the interactions between Eiji and Ankh would be a standout of this season. Our two leads encounter Kogami-san, who assists them by providing various resources and equipment, but clearly he has ulterior motives, and this guy also loves to say, "Happy birthday." Kamen Rider Oz also features Kamen Rider Birth,
He's kind
an
of
incredibly
weird.
unique rider with multiple users, who's themed around capsule toys. One thing that's really unique about Oz is that he's able to mix and match metals to combine different forms, but he becomes really cool and powerful when he combines 3 of the same type, like Tajador. This show is critically and hugely successful, and Oz would continue the streak of excellent Kamen Rider seasons at the time.
It just seems like the designs will just get better, like with every season. Like the designs keep getting better. I love this.
2011 would see the release of a huge
I love when it just improves like
Oz,
that.
Dino, All Riders, Let's Go Kamen Riders. This movie of course featured Oz and Dino, but it also featured the double riders of the original Kamen Rider series, plus all of the other riders throughout history.
Oh snap! But how many Kamen Riders is it now?
Serving as a celebration commemorating the 40th anniversary of the franchise and the 60th anniversary of Toei Company, this movie continued the tradition of fan service and crossovers within the franchise. The fandom was also treated to some nostalgic appearances from other non-Rider Toku characters like Kikaider, Inazuman, and Zubat, and a cool form from Oz using the Imogen and Shocker medals. Appropriately, the catchphrase for the movie is "Oh the world."
Dang, look at all those Kamen Riders.
Due to the large amount of legendary heroes featured here, and this movie served as a great showcase of the Kamen Rider franchise to new fans.
But how many Kamen Riders is it? I know they have enough for an army.
Later on in 2011, we were introduced to one of the most unique and fresh Kamen Rider seasons of all time in Kamen Rider Foze,
仮面ライダー
Forse?
a 40th anniversary project themed around space and centered around the Kamen Rider Club of Amanogawa High School. Our main protagonist is Gintaro, an eccentric and charismatic new student who recently
delinquent.
transferred and is determined to be everyone's friend. Yuki is Gintaro's
Got the hairstyle and
childhood friend,
everything,
she
boy.
is just as quirky and fun on screen as Gintaro, making for an excellent cast that portray their characters with enthusiasm. This season took a lot of risks in regard to theming and style, but it resulted in a very memorable season that was consistently entertaining and really fun in general.
That show is definitely going on the list. Kamen Rider Force.
1号からオースまで全てのライダーが登場
Also released in 2011 was the game All Kamen Rider Rider Generation for the Nintendo DS
40th
system.
anniversary,
This was a
dang.
fun arcade-style beat-em-up game
Ooh.
that also received a sequel later. In 2012, the franchise would go in yet another new direction with Wizard, a magic and fantasy-themed rider
Got the
season with
wizards.
quite a bit of comedy and charm added on top of the Kamen Rider formula. The main protagonist for this season is named Haruto, and he uses rings of different elements to hench into Kamen Rider Wizard. This series also featured an incredibly likable secondary hero with a cool suit in the mayonnaise-obsessed Kosuke, also known as
Mayonnaise
Kosuke.
obsessed.
This season also features a lot of quirky comedy, mostly delivered by Shunpei. Although this series didn't quite reach the same height as the previous few seasons, Wizard's uniqueness created new possibilities for what could be featured in Kamen
Oh,
Rider.
they jumping them. Ooh. Oh, Kaitsuku. Yeah.
2012
Oh!
also marked the 10th anniversary of TV Asahi's Superhero Time TV block, and to celebrate, Toei released Kamen Rider and Super Sentai Superhero Taisen, a crossover film featuring the company's two most famous franchises.
Oh, let's go.
This movie
Let's
focuses
go.
primarily on Decade, Foze, Oz, Go Busters, and Go Kaiger, but the vast majority of riders and rangers throughout history are featured here. In this film, Captain Marvelous leads the Dai Zangyak fleet against all Kamen Riders, while Kamen Rider Decade leads Dai Shocker against all Sentais. This movie
Yo,
brought the stakes
that
of
is
intrigue and heavyweight
insane.
fight to the big screen in a love letter to both Kamen Rider and Super Sentai.
Yo, this is insane. God, dog.
2013 would continue the trend of wild and fresh ideas being implemented into the Kamen Rider formula with the much-loved and very unique season, Kamen Rider Gaim. This show features dancing fruit samurai, which might sound
Dancing
childish on
fruit
surface
samurai?
level, but this show actually has a surprisingly dark tone at times, with a lot of depth and weight to the story. In the universe of Gaim, reality has become almost unbearably hard and depressing for most people, so dance troupes are formed to liven up the community, and one of these troupes is called Gaim. Kota is our main protagonist who becomes Kamen Rider Gaim, and he displays a charisma and relatability that makes it very easy to root for him.
What's up
This
with all
show
those
is another
lots?
treat for fans of Rider versus Rider battles and infighting. And Gaim is generally remembered very fondly by most of the community, and it would be impossible to tell the story of Kamen Rider without Gaim.
Dime.
みんな行くぞ
Oh, another crossover.
2013 would also deliver another fun-filled and action-packed team-up movie in Kamen Rider and Super Sentai and Space Sheriff Superhero Tyson Zeto.
Man,
This
how
is
many
the sequel to
crossovers had they
Superhero Tyson
had?
movie with the new addition of the Metal Heroes
I
franchise.
ain't complaining, but man. Yo, that's crazy. Like how many
This
times
movie
they did
features
so many
heroes from the three major
crossovers.
Toei franchises on screen together to fight against the emerging Space Shocker in a thrilling and nostalgic celebration of Kamen Rider and all of Toei.
仮面ライダー
War?
仮面ライダー
In 2013, Toei and Bandai Namco released a game titled Kamen Rider Bat-Ride War for the PlayStation 3. This game is considered a hack and slash style game and features every Heisei rider up until Wizard. This game lets you take on large groups of enemies at a time during battle scenarios designed to make you feel like a powerful Kamen Rider. The success of this game would lead to several sequels over the years.
I doubt that this game is in the U.S. But
2014
I'm still
would see
gonna
the
look
release
for
of
it
Kamen
though.
Rider Drive, a car and police-focused season. Shinsuke is an officer that was demoted into the Special Investigation Division, where he investigates slowdown and fight against the roid mutes. He henshins into Kamen Rider Drive using Belto-san and drives around in a stylish red car. Takahito Omori, one of the producers of the show, called it a tribute to Knight Rider, a car-focused show from the 1980s.
Type speed.
The theme song for this season is sung by Mitsuru Matsuoka, who also played Kamen Rider Eternal in Double. Drive was a well-written and much liked season that added to the Kamen Rider legacy in a positive way and kept the fandom entertained in 2014. "2015 was a bit of a slow year for
Kamen Rider
with the only
Ghost.
project of note being Kamen Rider Ghost. This series used themes revolving around the afterlife as our main protagonist Takeru searches for the icons that will prevent his permanent death.
So he's looking for immortality.
The suit designs of the season feature bold colors, elaborate helmet ornamentation, and hoodies, a look that I appreciate even today.
Okay. They try to switch the style up. Try to get hoodies on. Okay. I like that.
2016 saw the introduction of one of the most bold, colorful, and fun rider series of all time in Kamen Rider Ex-Aid. Celebrating the 45th anniversary of Kamen Rider, this is a show that takes place mostly in a hospital and focuses on a group of gaming doctors that battle against the Bugsters. This cast is loaded with charm and personality, especially our main protagonist, Emu.
I'm a Kamen Rider.
The suits have a really unique
I'm a
anime
Kamen
look,
Rider.
and almost everything has a look that you could
I just like the
perhaps
way that they
best
say it.
describe as being part anime and part retro gaming. It might sound like a strange combination, but it works really well, and the aesthetic of Ex-Aid makes the show an incredibly memorable entry into the franchise.
Look at the little man. Oh, here we go.
In 2016,
Kamen Rider Amazons.
fandom was also treated to a new Rider series for adults called
This-
Amazons, based
Oh.
on the classic Kamen Rider Amazon, and streaming.
This
on
is what
Amazon
got me
Prime
into
Video.
this.
show
This is what
featured
got
a
me into
distinctively
Kamen
more
Rider.
violent style compared with the mainline series, something that the show shares with the original. In fact, there's a lot of things from the show that I just can't show you on YouTube, because if I did,
Man.
I'd age an eye. This show featured only 12 episodes, but would
It
get
was
renewed for a
nasty
second
work
season.
over here,
This
boys.
series brought new
Woo!
attention to the classic Kamen Rider Amazon series, as well as attention to the Kamen Rider franchise as a whole, due to how prevalent Amazon Prime Video is throughout the world.
And they were tearing people's heads off and everything. Woo! Love it.
2017 saw the debut of a cool new science and math themed rider in Kamen Rider Build. After an item called the Pandora's Box was discovered on Mars, there was an event called the Skywall disaster that split Japan into 3 warring territories, Toto, Hokuto, and Seto, and this also created monsters called Smash. In order to deal with the fallout of this event and to defeat Smash, the Toto government enlists help from our main protagonist, Sento. Sento is unquestionably a genius who henshins into Kamen Rider Build. This series also features Ryuga, also known as Crossy, as a captivating secondary rider with a well-written story,
At least he got some
as well as
backup.
Ivorto, an alien that wants to assimilate all of humanity. Due to Build's unique world building, interesting characters, and great story, this show has remained as one of the most loved and well-remembered.
Dang, why did he just
History.
shove them? Yo, he had to do it like that.
2018 brought us the final season of the Heisei era and the first anniversary season since Decade 10 years prior in Kamen Rider Gyo. This year's show is themed around time and time travel. Our main protagonist Sogo is destined to become Oma King Jio, a ruthless tyrant of the future. To prevent this, Gaze goes back in time to kill Jio, but a woman named Tsukuyomi has also gone back to protect Sogo. As this is an anniversary season, we're treated to a lot of throwback riders and various crossovers that longtime fans will appreciate, including grotesque versions of the riders that oppose our heroes.
The grotesque?
Geo was a love letter of a season written to the Kamen Rider franchise as a whole. Before the Heisei era officially came to a close, Toei released Heisei Generations Forever, a huge celebration of the entire Heisei era.
Ooh, he didn't have to do it to drop the elbow on him.
This movie is stuffed with fan
Yo.
service related to every one of the Heisei riders, and they each get a healthy amount of time to shine.
One thing about it, you can't have Kamen Rider without explosions and motorcycles.
The entirety of the Heisei
can't.
era leads up to this point in a triumphant and thrilling climax, and this project marks the final Rider project before the next era.
And here we are to the new era.
2019 brought with it the Reiwa era and Kamen Rider 01. This show follows Aruto Hiden, who is a comedian that inherits a company called Hiden Intelligence from his grandfather. Hiden Intelligence makes Humagears, which are AI-powered robots that resemble humans.
Oh, AI.
Eventually,
This is how you
Aruto
know
encounters
this the new
Metsubo
era.
Genrai.net, who are rogue Humagears led by Kamen Rider Horobi, and they intend to bring about the extinction of humans by hacking and corrupting other Humagears.
私は技術顧問の刃優愛、そして捜査官の
This show features Yaiba and Fua from the organization AIMS, also known as Kamen Riders Valkyrie and Vulcan, and their goals aren't always the same as Aruto's, or even each other's, leading to a really interesting story with explosive conflict. This show asks if AI is a good or bad thing, a question that's increasingly more relevant in today's world, and we would come to discover that there isn't necessarily a clear black and white answer to this.
That AI,
01 featured a
trust me,
collection
AI is
of
gonna take
amazingly
over.
detailed and dynamic-looking suit designs, as well as action that I consider very anime-like in general. This is a season that's a treat for the eyes. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic, the production of this series was cut short toward the end, resulting in a rushed final act of 01.
That 2020 pandemic, boy. Whew, it wasn't no joke.
In 2020, after the pandemic, with 01's production being cut short and most people staying at home, it was decided that the next Kamen Rider season would have a warmer and more lighthearted tone. This resulted in 2020's Kamen Rider Saber, a fun and whimsical take on the Kamen Rider formula that features a more lighthearted tone and even an outro dance number, which was a first of the franchise. Our main protagonist is a novelist named Toma, who
This
was
is
quite
when they
possibly
started
the stylish
dancing.
rider
Okay.
since Shotaro Hidari of Kamen Rider Double. "2020 was a year where the fans needed some lighthearted fun in their life, and Saber delivered on that.
But they were killing it though. Oh, another video
In 2020,
game.
we were also
Oh,
treated to a brand new Kamen Rider game for PlayStation 4 and Nintendo Switch called Kamen Rider Memory of Heroes. This game features 01 teaming up with Double and O's in an original new Kamen Rider adventure that allowed fans to henshin, fight bosses, and switch between the awesome forms that these riders possess. Players could acquire new abilities from the enemies they defeat, as well as upgrade their stats. Despite the pandemic, Kamen Rider was alive and well in 2020.
y'all gonna have to tell me about the video games because I definitely missed out.
Going into early 2021, we got
Oh.
Saber and Zenkaiger Superhero Senki, a crossover
Superhero
movie project
Senki.
between Saber and Zenkaiger to celebrate Kamen Rider's 50th anniversary and Super Sentai 45th anniversary. The catchphrase for this movie is
Ooh.
straightforward heroes.
50th anniversary. God dang. Woo.
During the events of the movie, riders end up in the Zenkai world, and the Zenkaigers, other than Jiran, end up in the Saber world, and eventually they team up together as you would expect. This movie served as an excellent anniversary celebration for fans of both franchises.
Man, that had to have been. Oh man, I cannot imagine the
Also in
feeling of watching
2021, we
that
got
for the
Kamen Rider
first time.
Revice. Serving as the 50th anniversary project of the franchise, Revice is a story about Ikki and his inner demon, Vice, who are tandem riders that become Kamen Rider Revice.
I got a lot to catch up on.
Ikki's family runs a bathhouse together, and his siblings also become riders as they use V-stamps to henshin and fight against the Deadmans. Revice brought a new style and vibe into the franchise, as well as some unique color choices for the riders, and the unique aspects of the show make it memorable within the history of Kamen Rider. 2022 brought with
Jeets.
it an absolute banger of a Kamen
And
Rider
see,
series
I
named
tried to
Kamen
do
Rider
a
Jeets.
video
This
for
series
Jeets,
focuses
but
on a battle royale with supporters and organizers from the
they were
future
blocking
called
the
Desired
video,
Grand Prix.
so I had to butcher it.
The winner of this battle royale will have their deepest desire granted to them, so the stakes are really high and the conflict is really interesting.
I might have to post
Our
this
main
on
protagonist
Patreon
is
only
Yukio, who is the definition of being cool.
because
We
I
also
need
have
to.
the
I need to
famous
finish
social
this
media
up.
star, Neon, also known as Nago, who has a really great story arc, and she's very easy to root for. And then we have Keiwa, a happy-go-lucky character that goes through an intense story arc that turns him into a vengeful force of nature. This entry into the Kamen Rider franchise featured a great story, a great cast, and superb action scenes. Geats was so successful that it even received a Blu-ray release in America.
Oh wow, is that true?
2022 also gave us the
Dang.
reimagining of the legendary Kamen Rider Black story with Black Sun on Prime Video. A much more violent and politically charged take on the classic series that took its own liberties with the source material. This series celebrates the 35th anniversary of Kamen Rider Black, serving as an example of just how iconic and legendary that series
Bruh.
was. And did I mention it's really bloody? There's a lot from the show that I can't even show you
bloody?
on YouTube.
Dang. Oh, it's the Kamen Rider
2022 also
anime.
gave us the direct anime sequel to Kamen Rider Double in Futo Pi. This series follows Shotaro and Philip as they solve crimes and do Kamen Rider things in a post-museum world. Double is extremely popular, and the success of Futo Pi raises hopes that maybe someday the fandom will be treated to anime adaptations of more Kamen Rider series. And this show is
That
even
would
getting
be
a film
dope.
release this
That would be
coming November.
dope. Kamen Rider anime. But they should start doing it though for the other Kamen Rider shows.
In 2022, we also got the O's 10th anniversary movie, the 10th Core Medal of Fate, in which Eiji's story would come to an end, and many fans were quite unhappy about how it ended.
俺の願いだ。
バカかなんでそんなことした
I've had people tell me in the comments that in Japan people were crying in the theaters. Regardless of how you feel, this was a historically
Wow.
significant Kamen Rider project.
That had that had to have been an emotional like event right there.
2023
Have
brought
folks
us
crying?
Kamen Rider Gachard, a lighthearted
I
and
didn't
fun
know
rider
that.
season focusing on Hotaro Ichinose, also known as Kamen Rider Gachard.
どうしたオッパは
Gotcha.
This series brought with it a new alchemy theme and a return to cards being used by the riders, in addition to fun creatures called Kemis. This story explores the lives of Hotaro and his friend Rin Kudo as they seek to capture the Kemis.
The Kings.
After some
Dang,
serious
they almost got
projects,
ran over.
Gachard was a season that had a few shortcomings in terms of story beats and character development, but historically the franchise tends to ebb and flow between lighthearted kid-friendly seasons and darker seasons with more mature stories. Gachard leans more towards being a kid-friendly season, like I just described, but this isn't necessarily a bad thing, and some fans might even view it as a positive. 2023 also gave us the incredibly stylish love letter to the
Oh,
original
Shin
Kamen
Kamen
Rider series
Rider.
in the form of Shin Kamen Rider, another reimagining to
Oh.
celebrate the franchise's 50th anniversary. This movie set out to take everything that made the original series great and dial it up to 11.
Oh,
Look, tone,
oh.
style, and music are all
She was
faithfully
putting in
recreated
work.
here, with a new layer of flair and high production values that only time and a large budget can provide. This movie tells a story that's a combination of several story beats from throughout the original series, and these elements are all stitched together in a really entertaining way. It's obvious that the people involved in making this movie had a ton of love for the franchise, and they put their hearts into making it. And now, in 2024, at the time of making this video, we finally have a look at the next writer coming up in Kamen Rider Gab, a snack
Gab.
writer whose catchphrase is "Sweets and evil."
So this was the latest
He has a unique
one.
purple, blue, and yellow color scheme, along with some other cool-looking forms. And if history is any indicator, this will be another big year for Kamen Rider.
Kamen Rider Gab.
For 50 years, the Kamen Rider franchise has given us some amazing
50
characters,
years,
interesting
God
stories,
dang.
jaw-dropping action,
Whew.
and heart-wrenching drama. We've seen hundreds of riders fight for what they believe
You never
in,
know.
or who
They
care
might
about.
do another
Tons
50
of
years.
organizations be brought to justice, and we've been lucky enough to enjoy this amazingly weird and wonderful world of triumph called Kamen Rider.
仮面ライダー
Thanks for taking a trip with me through the history of this awesome franchise. I'd love to hear what your favorite Kamen Rider moment is in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, I would appreciate it a lot if you would smack the shit out of that like button. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time. Bye!
Wow. Hey, I just love watching like documentaries. Like, it's just so much information. Like, I think most of this I did not even know. Like, I didn't even know that they actually like really tried to bring Kamen Rider to the US. Like back in like the mid 90s. Dang. But I don't know. I think they should try and I think they should try again. Yeah. But I need to try and find that show so I can just see how bad people are saying that it was. I don't know. It really didn't look that bad to me personally. But I just got to catch it. I got a whole lot of research to do. I got a lot of research. Because I just been missing out on so much in the video games. Y'all gotta talk to me about the video games. Like, do y'all recommend the video games? Because if y'all do, I might actually play it on my gaming channel. But hey, if you guys like the video, go ahead and subscribe, like, and comment, and I'll catch y'all later.